Coming to you live from poolside here at Pennsylvania Equality Project headquarters in Meadville, Pennsylvania. For Saturday, July 13th, you're listening to PEP Radio. These are the top news stories this evening. Our top story comes from Idaho. As of this month, it's now illegal in Idaho for a librarian to let you check out an LGBTQ plus book. The story given to us from Nico Lang of Queer News Daily states, the state's new ban on LGBTQ plus library books, HB 710, went into effect on July 1st. Under the law, librarians face a $250 fine or the threat of lawsuits if they house harmful materials on bookshelves. At face value, that term does not appear to apply to queer texts, as defined by the bill itself. HB 710 prohibits books containing sexual conduct, including any representation of, quote, homosexuality. Although it could be debated whether those definitions would apply to a book that contains a queer character who doesn't engage in intimate acts, librarians likely won't have time to parse the potential nuances of the new law. HB 710 gives them 60 days to remove potentially offending materials before facing possible legal action or financial penalties. In other states, book bans have been applied extremely broadly, resulting in even extremely innocuous children's literature like And Tango Makes Three, which is about gay penguins who adopt a child, being removed from shelves. Spoiler for those who haven't read it, its pages contain absolutely no penguin nookie. The law earlier created considerable chaos in the state of Idaho, and it's only getting worse. Before it officially went into effect earlier this month, a library in Preston temporarily shut down to give workers the time to remove LGBTQ plus books from its youth adult section. The library in Donnelly admitted that it did not have the resources to comply with HB 710, citing its small staff, and announced that readers under the age of 18 will simply no longer be allowed entry into the library. As a result of the harsh restrictions, a January survey found that more than half of Idaho librarians, or 60%, are considering quitting. In other news, Richard Simmons, known for decades as an iconic fitness guru, has died. He was 76. According to TMZ, law enforcement sources tell TMZ that police and fire responded to a call from his housekeeper just before 10 a.m. Saturday and pronounced him dead at the scene. We're told no foul play is suspected at this time, and police are looking into it as natural causes being the cause of death. Shockingly, Richard Simmons posted multiple times on Facebook recently, including thanking fans for all the birthday wishes he had received. Simmons rose to fame in the 1970s and 80s by opening a series of gyms, including the Anatomy Asylum in Los Angeles. He released dozens of fitness tapes and DVDs during the 1980s. Fans gravitated towards Richard for his positive, flamboyant energy, though in his later life he stepped away because of the demands of keeping up his persona in the spotlight. Again, Richard Simmons, dead at the age of 76. Members of the state civil rights enforcement agency, the Pennsylvania Human Relations Commission, released a statement regarding the death of a 14-year-old transgender girl. Pennsylvania Human Relations Commission members acknowledged the death of Pauly Likens, a 14-year-old transgender girl who was allegedly murdered and dismembered, with her body found on July 2nd in Sharon, Pennsylvania. Members of the state civil rights enforcement agency released a statement regarding the death of a 14-year-old transgender girl. Civil rights outreach coordinator, supervisor for the Pennsylvania Human Relations Commission, Cheryl Meck, said the PHRC recognizes the seriousness of the accusations involved in the murder. This teen girl was tragically taken from her family, and it is comforting to know police are actively investigating hate crimes charges. Last week, the Civil Rights Outreach Division held a community forum in Philadelphia discussing violence against transgender individuals following the death of a transgender woman in that city. As a follow-up note to this particular story, which came to us from WJET TV News in Erie, it should be noted that unfortunately Pennsylvania does not have an ethnic intimidation law or hate crimes law that includes sexual orientation, gender identity, gender expression, age, autism spectrum disorder, and it also doesn't include pregnancy status. The PHRC urges anyone who has experienced discrimination or hate to file a complaint by calling them at area code 717-787-4410. That number again, area code 717-787-4410. We close out today's program with this letter to Senator Lisa Baker, chair of the Pennsylvania Judiciary Committee. Copies of the letter were also sent to Governor Josh Shapiro and Lieutenant Governor Austin Davis. Dear Senator Baker, on October 28, 2009, President Barack Obama signed into law the National Defense Authorization Act, which included a rider now titled 18 United States Code, Chapter 13, Section 249 et sequitur, more commonly referred to as the Matthew Shepard and James Byrd Jr. Hate Crimes Prevention Act. Within the language of the law, several protected classes were added to the original law to include real or perceived gender, gender identity, gender expression, sexual orientation, and disability. The United States Congress took this action as a response to the brutal murders of Matthew Shepard and James Byrd. Soon after, several states passed similar legislation to include these protected categories. Pennsylvania included sexual orientation, gender identity, gender expression, and real or perceived gender as protected classes with the passage of the Hate Crimes Law of 2002. However, for technical reasons, the law was struck down by the Commonwealth Court in 2008 over a technicality that served as a major setback for the LGBTQIA+ community of Pennsylvania. On November 9th, 2023, House Bills 1024 and 1027 were referred to the Judiciary Committee, on which you serve as the chair. These bills were related to acts of violence perpetrated on people who are part of these protected classes. According to the General Assembly's website, there have not been any hearings nor votes on this bill, which had 47 sponsors in the House and passed with a vote of 116 to 86. Thus, this bill had the support of several of your Republican colleagues in the House. According to the Pennsylvania State Police, Pauly Likens, a 14-year-old transgender girl from Mercer County, went missing. Her body was later found brutally murdered and dismembered with parts scattered in and near Shenango River Lake, not far from her home. Her family is completely devastated, as is the entire community near Sharon, PA. This evening, the letter originally stated on Saturday, July 13th, but that is this evening, her family will be holding a candlelight vigil to remember and honor the special young girl she was. Mercer County District Attorney Peter Acker is fairly certain that he cannot press hate crimes charges against the defendant in this case because Pennsylvania law does not include gender identity, gender expression, and real or perceived gender in the same way federal law does. According to the United States Code, if federal prosecutors felt that sufficient evidence existed to charge the defendant with a hate crime under the Matthew Shepard and James Byrd Jr. Hate Crimes Prevention Act, Deshaun Watkins, the defendant, could be facing federal hate crimes charges involving the federal government, and what should be handled as a state-based criminal prosecution is simply unacceptable. By now, you are aware of the numerous calls from your colleagues in the LGBTQ caucus to move forward with hearings on House Bills 1024 and 1027 in the Judiciary Committee. The story has attracted attention from media outlets around the world. Governor Shapiro has called for the bill to move forward. Now, as the president of the Pennsylvania Equality Project, a 501c3 nonprofit organization that works to organize members of the LGBTQIA+ community across the Commonwealth, I am asking you with due respect that you schedule hearings for the bills. Passage of these vital pieces of legislation will not only bring Pennsylvania one step closer to federal law, but we will move in the same direction as our neighbors in New Jersey, Delaware, New York, and Maryland that have already taken the steps necessary to prosecute hate crimes based on sexual orientation, gender identity, and gender expression. Changing the law will not bring back Pauly Likens. Changing the law will not save the countless lives of others who have been murdered in Pennsylvania, whose names we honor during Transgender Day of Remembrance ceremonies across Pennsylvania. However, it will allow prosecutors and judges to deliver justice for the families who have lost loved ones. I urge you to please schedule hearings with your colleagues on the committee and pass these bills to send a message to those who want to spread hate across the Commonwealth. In the words of Governor Shapiro, hate has no home in Pennsylvania. I hope you will honor those words. Best regards, me. And that's the news for Saturday, July 13th. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to chatting with you again soon. From the poolside, this is Dave Moore reporting.